A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
What if tomorrow your money didn't really belong to you anymore? What if, in the name of modernity, your freedom to spend your own money the way you want was quietly taken away? Today we're going to watch together a short clip of Christine Lagarde speaking about the digital euro. Let me warn you, if you value your individual freedom, your financial autonomy, and if you believe that money belongs to the citizen before it belongs to the state, then what you're about to hear deserves your full attention. Hello, and welcome to my channel. But before playing Lagarde's clip, I want us to listen to another voice. The voice of Eswar Prasad, former head of the IMF's Financial Studies Division, professor at Cornell, and one of the world's leading experts on the transformation of money. Listen carefully to what he says. It lasts less than a minute, but it changes everything you'll hear afterwards.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it as a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like say ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
There, Prasad has just laid down a key principle. Central bank digital currencies change the very nature of money and give central banks a power they have never had before. And now, let's listen to Christine Lagarde. Here's the format. We watch, we pause, we analyze and decode what this means for our individual freedoms.
The Governing Council is committed to making retail and wholesale central bank money fit for the digital age. In this vein, the Governing Council today decided to move to the next stage of the digital euro project. For me, as President of the ECB, I regard money as a public good. Money is a public good, full stop. And that public good, for many, many decades, has been built around central bank money, which is the anchor on which commercial money, which is created by banks, prospers and develops. But the anchor is critically important in order to make sure that money remains a public good. So in our mind, and certainly in my mind, central bank money has to remain an active part of the system that people can actually trust.
All right, let's start gently. Lagarde presents the digital euro as the continuity of public money. On paper, that sounds noble. Money is a public good. But let's stop right here, because that sentence redefines who owns money. In a liberal society, money is a tool of exchange serving the citizen. It is not a tool of power owned by the state or a central institution. What Lagarde is saying here is that money is a public good, and therefore it is up to the central bank to manage it, monitor it, and soon to control it. Prasad warns us, once money becomes digital and centralized, whoever controls the infrastructure controls its use. And that's a major shift, from money belongs to us to money is granted to you. Let's continue.
If you think of digital euro, it's the digital form of a banknote. People need to have their banknote. Maybe in 10 years' time, there will be fewer of those banknotes in circulation, but they will still need to have the certainty that a euro is a euro is a euro, just like a rose is a rose is a rose. And for me, it is our mission to make sure that money remains that public good that is available to our compatriots.
A euro is a euro is a euro. This sentence is meant to reassure you. It gives the illusion that nothing changes. But that is precisely where everything changes. A euro in cash in your pocket means freedom. It truly belongs to you. You use it without asking for permission. It leaves no trace, Nobody can stop you from using it, and it works without electricity, without a bank, without the state. A digital euro issued by the ECB has none of these characteristics that protect individual liberty. Prasad explains that the very nature of cash disappears. With a CBDC, every transaction is potentially traceable, verifiable, conditional. It's the end of financial anonymity, a pillar of individual freedom. Let's continue.
And we are working for the Europeans in that respect. You know, when I hear that it's a project in search of a cause, I think that money as a public good, the sovereignty of the European authorities at large over their currency and the way in which money stands, this is not a project in search of a cause. It embodies the capacity of Europe to defend itself and to transact with a currency that is its own. There are many other reasons why, the digital euro is perfectly legitimate, valid, and will be cheaper, user-friendly, good for transaction throughout Europe and not just in various countries on a national basis. But the key points for me is money is a public good, central banks are the custodian of that public good, and central money issued by central banks has to have its digital form, because we're moving into a different era where not everybody will want necessarily to have banknotes.
Now we're entering the serious part. Lagarde says the digital euro is essential for sovereignty. But be careful. When an institution uses the word sovereignty, you must always ask, sovereignty of whom? Over whom? Here, it is not the sovereignty of the citizen being protected. It's that of the institution. And history shows that the more centralized a currency becomes, the more it turns into a tool of power. Prasad puts it very clearly. CBDCs give central banks the ability to shape the economic behavior of citizens. We are shifting from money serves the market right-pointing arrow to money becomes a political instrument. Let's continue.
I will, before I answer your question, I want to say that I strongly agree with what the President just said. We need public money for the stability of the financial system. So the President is, as always, absolutely right. On the costs, I think it would be unwise to discuss costs before discussing the benefits. Currently, euro area banks only represent 1/3 of total activity on digital payments in the euro area. 2/3 of digital payments in the euro area are intermediated by non-European companies, both for digital payments at the point of sale and digital payments online. Now, the reason why this is so is that European Bank did not agree until now on ways to provide their services to the entire euro area. They don't have what is called in technical terms a rail, the infrastructure to provide, to offer their digital payment services to all European citizens. One of the main benefits, advantages for banks, there are many benefits for consumers, there are benefits for the stability of the financial system. One of the main benefits for the banks in the euro area is that once the digital euro infrastructure will be built, they will be able, by using this so-called open standard infrastructure, to use that rail and compete at European level, thus generating additional business, additional revenues, and there will be many implications in terms of sovereignty for the euro area, in terms of control of the information that travels with your payments. This is the first part of my comment. The second, the costs. Now, there are estimates on the cost of adoption, because the construction of the digital euro will be paid by the euro system.
Now let's turn to the speech of the other speaker, Fabio Panetta. This part is crucial. Panetta presents the digital euro as a gift to banks, an economic opportunity. But ask yourself this: since when does greater monetary centralization actually help commercial banks? If tomorrow we can all have an account directly with the ECB, commercial banks lose their reason to exist, managing deposits and issuing credit. And where does that lead? To a model where the central bank becomes the only bank. That is the end of the liberal banking system. Prasad insists A CBDC re-centralizes financial power and turns the central bank into the dominant actor to the detriment of private banks and therefore of the free market. Let's continue.
The cost, I don't know if the estimates which are available are correct, discussed numbers of about 6 billion euros for 4 years. Now, if you think that we have 2,000 banks in the euro area for 4 years, this means that the cost of adoption is a few €100,000 per year per bank. Now, even forgetting the benefits I just mentioned, then the costs of adoption are not so high. They represent overall about 3% of total yearly IT costs for the banks. So then who will pay those costs? Well, it depends on the competition on the payment market. If the digital euro will be introduced, competition will be higher and the banks will not be able to transfer those costs to consumers. So we'll be limited, there will be additional revenues, and then the costs will be allocated depending on competition, and competition will improve.
Did you hear that? The cost is low, and there will be no impact for citizens. When a political or institutional leader tells you that a major structural change will have no impact, that's usually the moment to open your eyes wide. The digital euro is not a commercial product. It's not an app. It is a transformation of the nature of money, and nobody can pretend it will be neutral for citizens. The announced cost? 6 billion euros over 4 years. And you already know how this ends. First, the state pays, but the state is funded by us, citizens, through taxes. Then banks will have to pay in one way or another, and will pass on those costs to their clients. And once again, citizens end up paying. Prasad explains it. When money changes form, the rules of the economy change with it, and every change of rules ends up affecting citizens, especially the most vulnerable. Let's continue.
My question goes back to money and payments, basically. We in Europe are in an environment in which public money, as you said, and public cash, actually digital cash, is going to be a key feature of the future of payments. In the United States, at the same time, we are witnessing a strong push towards stable coins, towards crypto, and actually what is a ban on central bank digital money. So it is paramount, as I understand, that we at some point reach an agreement that there is some kind of harmonization at the global level. Now, since you're back from the IMF meetings in Washington, my question is, at what stage is this process, at what stage are negotiations towards some kind of coordination with the US administration? Thank you.
Second, we are also attentive to the regulatory framework in which private forms of money, certain financial instruments that I would not call currencies, and I'm here referring to cryptos, equivalent of currencies as they present themselves, but which are private form of money, such as stable coins, are launched, are reserved against, are made secure, and that was under the MiCAR, which was the European regulation that was issued in order to establish the protection of consumers, enough financial stability, and rules by which some of those issuers were supervised.
Now we get to a key part of the narrative. Cryptocurrencies are supposedly dangerous, and the digital euro is the safe and reassuring version. This reversal is fascinating. For 10 years, institutions ignored, mocked, or fought cryptos. Now that they understand cryptos offer freedom, monetary competition, and escape central control, their strategy changes. Don't use them. They're risky. Use our version instead. Prasad says the same thing, but in academic language, cryptos introduced competition in the creation of money, and states want to take back the monopoly. We're replacing a private innovation, imperfect indeed, with a public tool perfectly designed for control. Let's continue.
First of all, I would like to insist on the fact that we at the ECB in the Eurosystem are very attentive to innovation, and we are very supportive of innovation. The digital euro, the different options that we're exploring, the way in which we reach out to both suppliers, merchants, banks, which stand to benefit from this system, is a clear indication that we want innovation into money and into this public good for which we are responsible. So for those who would like to argue that we are trying to stifle innovation, terribly sorry, but no, this is you're knocking at the wrong door. Innovation is definitely part of us and part of the DNA of central bankers in Europe.
We encourage innovation. We don't want to hinder it. This sentence is pure soft power communication. If the real goal was to foster innovation, the market would be allowed to experiment. Yet what's happening in Europe shows the opposite. Massive regulation like MiCA, restrictions on crypto usage, and the marginalization of private alternatives. It's like when the state says you are free, as long as you do exactly what it wants. Prasad explains that CBDCs create a risk of crowding out innovation. If the state copies private innovation, regulates it, then replaces it, we end up with a sterilized market dependent on the public version. In other words, the state says innovation, but what it enforces is standardization and control. Let's continue.
I observe, by the way, that in spite of the executive decision that was made back in January, the Genius Act, which was issued by Congress in the United States, is also attempting to put together a framework which has a lot of overlap with MiCA. There are some discrepancies, and there are areas for which we have to be attentive not to create financial stability risk or arbitrage risks that would be detrimental to Europe. This is our job, and we will continue to do that job and to have a dialogue with the Commission, which is in charge of establishing the rules of the game, if you will. But as I said earlier, what we are doing, putting money as a public good on the map and making sure that the anchor is alive and digital as well as cash, is our duty. But it does not stop private issuers to do what they think is their business. They're into market share. They're into penetration of certain spheres of either payment or transactions. But our job is to secure the anchor. Our job is to secure the settlement functions. And we are going to continue doing that, notwithstanding initiatives that some of those issuers will take. And it certainly does not preclude European-based issuance that would be in compliance with the regulatory framework that we have. So it's a vibrant domain, but one where we have to make sure that we do not expose our compatriots or our economy to financial instability risk that would certainly be a recurrence of what we observed back in 1890 in the United States, for instance.
Here comes the core institutional argument. We must protect stability. But be cautious with the word stability when spoken by a central bank. Monetary history shows that stability is often the argument used to justify expanding central control. Yes, stability matters, but in a free society, it must be balanced by a higher principle, the individual's sovereignty over their own money. Prasad explains it perfectly. Once a central bank can protect stability by directly altering how you use your money, it can also steer, limit, or punish certain economic behaviors. Stability becomes a pretext for social engineering. You may have noticed something in Lagarde's speech. She never mentions three fundamental aspects of the digital euro, and that silence is very revealing. The first aspect is the potential programmability of the digital euro. If the digital euro becomes programmable, the state can condition how, when, and where you spend your money. It is no longer your money. It becomes a permission to buy. The second aspect is the end of cash, which means the end of autonomy. To be clear, as long as cash exists, you have an exit door, a zone of freedom. The day the digital euro replaces cash, that door closes. And the third point concerns the risk of a single central bank system. If tomorrow your money is held directly by the ECB, you can no longer change banks. Commercial banks become secondary. Can you imagine a world where the state is both lawmaker, banker, and overseer, that is no longer a free state. That is an authoritarian bureaucracy. The goal of this video was not to be alarmist. It was to be clear-eyed. The digital euro could be progress, under one condition, that it strengthens individual freedom, not state control. Lagarde presents a clean, polished, reassuring version. But let's not forget that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Prasad reminds us what all this means in the real world, when we think like economists rather than communicators. The real question is simple. Do you want to live in a society where your money is free or supervised? Because money is not just a means of payment. Money is, above all, a space of individual freedom that allows us to turn our choices into reality. And if we lose that freedom, it won't be because the state took it from us. It will be because we stopped defending it. That is why making this kind of video matters, so that each of us can understand the changes such a system implies. On my Patreon, I share ways to prepare for all this. Join me. The link is in the description. If you want more videos where I break this down, tell me in the comments. And if you'd like me to make a dedicated video on how do we preserve financial freedom in the age of CBDCs, I can do that too. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it to raise awareness, and subscribe to the channel. See you very soon. Until then, stay free.